Whatever you do, if you're in government, don't say there's a problem. Don't mention there's anything wrong with the vaccine. Because should you stand up and say, actually, there's a problem with the vaccine, that a lot of people have been hurt, that we have a yellow card system in place, and 500,000 people seem to have been affected. They're only the ones that have actually bothered to take the time to fill in the yellow card system, which is an online system to complain about what has happened to you as a result of having something that's been cajoled or mandated or forced down your neck to take when you probably didn't need it in the first place, or that there are perhaps excess deaths happening at the moment across not only the country but the world. Now, if you were an MP and you wanted to stand up because people were telling you there's a problem, there is something wrong, you would think that the government, the benevolent government, the kind government, would be very receptive to this, seeing as they've forced pretty much and encouraged and are still encouraging people to take this vaccine, what they call a vaccine, this medical procedure. Well, if you happen to be Andrew Bridgen and you stand up, MP for North Leicestershire, I think it is, North West Leicestershire, no, they don't like it. They certainly don't like it. They don't want to be told they're wrong. Now, admittedly, Andrew Bridgen did send out a tweet this morning, no doubt in frustration, really, I suspect, because he has been trying to get people to listen, to just not so much stop anything, but to get people to be aware that there is a problem, that perhaps there needs to be an investigation. Okay, let's halt everything whilst we just check that we're not damaging more people than we ought to. Something that you would think that any MP who has its constituency saying to it, look, I think there's a problem with this, and instead of, like the other MP's letter which I read out the other day, an alleged MP, I'm just going to say that because I didn't actually physically see who it was from, although I know who it's from, whose attitude was, don't look at anything online, don't listen to all the rubbish, they're all whack jobs. If you're somebody like Andrew Bridgen, who actually bothered to get up, and even though the House of Commons on the 13th of December, when he made his speech and was questioning the validity and the efficacy of this vaccine that has been mandated, and saying, look, there might be a problem, there are signs, people are telling me, perhaps we should look at it. He has now had his whip removed. He sent this tweet out. Now, okay, I grant you that it was probably ill-advised to phrase it as he said it. It was actually him quoting somebody else, from what I understand, which I won't read the tweet out. It's all in the newspapers. You can read it for yourself. But what makes it worse, I think, is the odious Matt Hancock standing up at PM Questions, Prime Minister's Questions today, and asking the Prime Minister if he agreed with him, Matt Hancock, that everything about the vaccines has been absolutely safe, and of course that Andrew Bridgen had been terrible in, I'm paraphrasing, in putting his frustrations forward in a tweet because it was, in his mind, racist. Well, it's interesting, isn't it? And I do wonder whether either it was ill-advised or an MP at the end of his tether, not being listened to, had to do something which would get the newspapers and the media to talk about it. Now, this may be a clever way of getting at least the newspapers, that he may have known that what was going to happen is he would be told off, struck off, have his whip removed or something, or even his career come to an end. I don't know. The main thing is that what has happened is it's brought it out into the open. Andrew Bridgen was questioning something that loads of people know about and have been suffering from. He took it to the House of Commons and everybody stayed stum. They shut up about it. This is terrible. This is not democracy. If there is a problem with a medical procedure that has been given to hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people in this country and around the world, and if there is a problem, and if people are being hurt by it, if people are mysteriously dying as a possible result of it, I think, like any other person in this country, right-minded thinking person in a democratic society, ought to be able to expect an MP to stand up and say, there's a problem, let's look at it. Maybe we should just halt. I'm not saying get rid of it. I'm just saying let's halt the proceeding. Let's have another look at the data. Let's focus in this, because this could be a really bad thing. So I'm hoping that although this terrible thing has happened to Andrew Bridgen, that at the end of it, we can now start talking about it a little bit more legitimately. It's in the papers. So it is well worth speaking out. Talk to your own MPs and say, wait a minute, perhaps there is something wrong. Maybe we should have a look at the data again. Perhaps we should just halt the rolling out of this medical procedure. Perhaps we've been too hasty. Has it been thoroughly tested? Now is the time to speak more than any other.